Okay, we are recording. Hello, Nicole. Welcome and thank you for allowing me to interview you tonight. How are you?
Oh, I'm amazing, Willow, and just super excited to be able to share this time with you. So thank you so much for including me and thinking of me and interviewing me.
Thank you. So, to the audience and the people that are watching this, the purpose of this is to share amazing women. There are so many women out there that just really bring amazing experiences and support other women, and strong women support other women. And so I'm really excited to support and share one of the most amazing women that I have met, Nicole, who is a small business coach. She is a revenue and success expert with decades of experience helping business owners, large and small, break free of the treadmill or the hamster wheel. She is so passionate about enabling small businesses from brick and mortar to the creativepreneurs, and really working with people to push past their limitations. So thank you, Nicole. Tell us a little bit more about that. What are creativepreneurs?
Oh, thank you for that introduction, Willow. I blush. So I have sort of coined this term called the creative business leader, and it is any business owner, entrepreneur, creative type that really struggles with the constant idea generation. And so this is someone who is brave enough to get started, has launched their ideas into reality, is monetizing their creativity or their business. And they tend to think very laterally about solutions, about problem solving, and can find themselves getting a little bit bogged down in the day-to-day of their business. So it's not always someone who works in the creative industries or who would identify as an artist, but someone who is a professional at coming up with amazing ideas and really thinking outside the box to create brilliant products and services and solutions for the people they serve.
Can you give some examples of someone that's outside of the box and outside of the what normally would be considered the creative industry, like the music and the artists? What other types of businesses have you worked with?
Absolutely. I've worked with everybody from C-suite executives to I have a current client right now who is a language school operator. So she lives in Switzerland. And so they all suffer from the same affliction of being easily distracted, of constantly coming up with ideas, of really being able to think incredibly laterally about what they do and how they do it, but without confidently or purposefully moving forward. And not necessarily that this is their biggest challenge, but when they're experiencing challenge or stressed, their go-to is to just come up with another idea or solution. When the reality is we create our own stress, and it's often due to some default tendencies or habits that we have. So rather than constantly kind of looking for that shiny object or getting distracted by the squirrel, if you can kind of sit with the success that you've created and really vision what the next level is going to look like, and then step through some strategies and tactics in order to realize that and face your fears or struggles along the way, amazing things tend to happen. But yeah, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone working in the creative industries. It's more like how someone's mind works.
I love that. And basically what you're saying is you really help people that have lateral thinking. And to someone who's not sure what you mean by lateral thinking, is that kind of what you just explained, or can you go a little deeper into that?
Oh, sure. Cool question. So to me, what that means is we're not just sort of thinking down a linear path in terms of action, result, action, result, action, result. We're able to take a step back and take in different perspectives, take in different results, take in different environmental factors, external influences, potentially even the resources someone has available, and look at a variety of different strategies that can still get you to the same place, but understanding what really is going to be the best and most efficient for you to fulfill you and your business's needs. So that's how I would describe a lateral thinker. And that's one of the reasons they can struggle is the paralysis by analysis. They're really great at looking at almost every iteration of a potential solution. And sometimes they can get stuck in that research and idea generation phase and never really see things through to fruition.
I love that explanation. And I have to say, you are amazing at it. One of the things that I value most about you is when we talk, you really, really seek clarity and strive to gain clarity on what I am trying to say or where I'm trying to go or what my vision is. So many times I've been talking to other people and they can't wait to project on me or tell me what they think I should do. And one of the reasons that I value you so much is you never do that. You really, really seek to understand and gain clarity, and you ask the best questions. You ask questions that no one else asks me, and you ask questions that when we're stuck in the problem, our minds can't even go there. Like, your ability to see things is priceless. So thank you for explaining what you mean by that, because you really are amazing at it. And it's
Wow, thank you. One of the reasons I love working with this style of thinking and this type of thinker is I truly believe you know the answers and you know what's best and you know what you need. And it's not my job to tell you, it's my job to help facilitate that exploration. That's why I really love the training that I received and the methodology which I use, because there isn't a one size fits all and there's never one right answer. And really, it's not just about helping you sort of uncover your ideas. It's also supporting you through that exploration, because it can feel like a hit or miss strategy. And sometimes when we're really just getting started or really digging into some of the things that have been holding us back, it's scary and it's hard, especially when we're running our own business and we already have, 40, 80 hours of work a week. Mm-hmm. It can feel like someone's adding on a whole nother job when we start to peel back these layers and get to your best idea, your best solution, and your best path. So having someone there just to kind of cheerlead you, that's probably what you're actually, you're doing all the work when we're talking, but having someone there to support you is probably what feels really validating and amazing.
It does. And yeah, you're right. We do come up with our own answers, but yeah, asking those questions helps dig to the right level. And it goes right along with your tagline on your website. I love that. Your fears are narrow-minded, but you don't have to be.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Thank you. It's so funny, actually. I'm going to say this only because I think it very much applies to what we're talking about right now. But I just got feedback on my website literally an hour ago. And someone was saying, there's too many words and it's not concise and you're not speaking to one person. And I think that's creativity is to the eye of the beholder. And you have to be really confident in what you do and who you do it for and why. And it's not going to be for everyone. So to get that feedback that it really resonates with you is just a reminder, I think, both to us and to whomever is watching. You're going to speak to the right people. And by believing in your ideas and sticking to that journey and to that path, and you're gonna not appeal to everyone, nor should you, and that's okay.
No, I love your website, honestly. Like, the other thing that I was gonna say that really resonated with me is when you say, I'm looking for partners, not clients. My experience with the entire business life cycle means we can be in it for the long haul. Together, we'll reminisce about why you started this venture in the first place and design a future that allows you the freedom to play on your strengths and outsource your weaknesses. To me, that's what most creatives absolutely need, because being a creative, I get so stuck in what I'm doing that the business part is like,
yeah. And good for you for having that awareness, I think. But what happens is we have an idea, and not, this isn't what happens to everyone. This is what happens to people like yourself and to people that are watching. So you have an idea and then you actually launch it. And then it works. You do find those people that resonate. You do find those people that are willing to buy and pay you and come back. And then it's like, oh my God, I've created all of this success and now I don't know what to do with it. This is my skill set. I've currently been wearing a lot of the hats, if not all of the hats in my business. How do I let some of those jobs go? I've probably hired people in the past that let me down. I've probably relied on people that did a shitty job and misrepresented my business. So I have some preconceived notions, fears about how that might look moving forward. Or the flip side of that is I watched my parents work super hard. I quit a corporate job where I felt like I was selling my soul to have this business, and I still feel like I'm selling my soul now. And so there's this idea that success has to look a certain way. And whether that's based on what you've created thus far or what you're modeling your success after, it takes some exploration to redefine that and to draw that line in the sand and say, I've done this. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm really good at. Or there's nothing wrong with this is what I really love doing. And then figuring out how to resource appropriately so that you can maintain the business that you love, focus on the tasks that not only you're good at, but that you also enjoy, and continue to build your business in a manner that is going to inspire you. And again, get you back to that original motivation and inspiration, and really sort of honor your own creative process. That's why I don't, the whole systems and these magical pills that the internet seems to be selling everybody, I'm sure they work for some people. I know they work for the people that created them. I have yet to work with a creative who fits into a one-size-fits-all system. And I also tend to attract people that really don't like being told what to do. And that's probably why they're their own boss. But that's also why I think one-to-one is such a powerful experience for the people that I work with.
I love that. Well, and you brought up something really important, because I used to own a gym too and do personal training. And like you said, as a creative, I bought a gym, and when I bought my gym, I was no longer personal training because I was doing all those other hats, because that was my first massive failure. And so when you said, a lot of people are scared, they're scared because they don't know who to trust. And I'm speaking from personal experience, because I've invested so much money in different programs, different coaches. And that's, to those of you watching, that is one of the purposes of this interview, to understand and really get to know Nicole and understand that she really only has your best interest at heart. And she goes above and beyond to really get clarity on what you are looking for, the consumer, the payer, the person whose business this is. She's really conscious about getting deep into what you want. And the most amazing thing about Nicole and working with her too is she does it without judgment. You are one of the few people that actually ask questions or go deeper with zero emotion and judgment. And when I say zero emotion, I mean that in a healthy way. It's with a lack of judgment, but only with compassion and love and seeing people's potential, which think of yourself and how many times you've told your dream to someone and they're like, oh my God, that's crazy. And it's something that you never do to people. You say, okay, how are we going to get there? Tell me more. Let's go deeper. And that's something very few people are able to do. And you do it so well. And it's important to people watching this, looking for a business coach, to really get that out of you.
I don't have work. If I knew that we were going to be doing this, I'd do this every day with you, Willow. But it's interesting that you say that, because someone asked me yesterday why I do what I do. And it's really selfish. If it wasn't for dreamers like you and the people watching, this would not be a world that I want to live in. It's because people are brave enough to take what's happening in here and vocalize it, and then take their words and action them. And this would be a really boring, bland place if it wasn't for the dreamers and the visionaries and the artists.
Mhm.
And again, it's for someone to create a language school that has a completely different curriculum to enable expats to be able to comfortably communicate in a completely foreign land, that's a brilliant vision and idea. It doesn't have to look like a painting or a sculpture or an image. I think we can also get pretty two-dimensional in our interpretation of what creativity is. And I've always had this ability to figure out if someone wants to monetize an idea, how. And again, I'm not going to promise you you're going to make $1 million. I'm not going to promise you that you're going to be famous. To me, those are byproducts of finding something that you love and creating a plan of delivery around it, even if it's just how many things you want to get out there. You don't even have to put a dollar sign on it. I just find that metrics help us not just take action, but build action. And I think people can get really scared about having a plan because they feel like if they don't realize that plan, if they don't hit their targets, then they're failing. To me, all targets do is just give us information. And ideas and information can seem like they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. To me, they're really one and the same. And so the clearer we can get on how that idea is going to realize itself in this very physical plane, then the more information we have, and that's empowering.
That school sounds amazing. And all of that sounds awesome. And it takes me to your blogs. Your blogs
Oh,
are awesome. So I was reading the imposter syndrome today. And so when you're
mhm.
talking about the creativity and everything else, imposter syndrome and the way you go through saying rate yourself and then act the part and
Yeah.
really empowering people. Talk about how you really help people empower themselves to step into that role because it's brilliant.
Oh gosh, thank you again. This is ego. So part of my training has to do with core energy coaching, and energy can be used synonymously with attitude, perspective, awareness, consciousness. There's a bunch of different words. Um, I believe that the fastest way to change the world is to change your perspective. And at the end of the day, all anyone is ever trying to do is fulfill their needs. And your needs are going to change from moment to moment, from role to role. So whether it's your partner in a relationship or the owner of a business or the child of a parent, the way you're interacting on a good day, on a bad day, on a vacation, at work, it's always going to be evolving. And imposter syndrome is so interesting. I do these things called geek dives. The internet can be a fairly significant, not just echo chamber, but feedback loop. And so I like to get to the origin of things, mainly to know if I'm going to talk about it, that I'm actually sharing truths. But so imposter syndrome was originally considered to be a psychological, almost debilitation, suffered only by women that were high achieving. And why? Because firstly, a woman was experiencing this in a state of postgraduate education. And the idea being that women just should not be there. Women did not belong in that level of education at that time, when this was the late 70s, when this research was being conducted. But as this research was published and put out into the world, guess what? Men experience it too. Guess what? The most successful people in the world experience it too. And, fast forward 10, 20, 30 years that this research has not only been out in the world, but iterated upon, and it's no longer considered a syndrome, it's a phenomenon. We all experience imposter syndrome. And some of us experience it more acutely than others. A lot of that has to do with your needs. So what are you seeking? Why are you seeking it? And ultimately, the only way you are ever going to get past imposter syndrome is to develop that inner approval, confidence, and belief in yourself. Now, that doesn't come automatically. That, like creativity, like leadership, like communication, is a skill you have to develop. And because I work with people who so easily relate to imagination, that's a fabulous place to start working on imposter syndrome. Because of course you're going to feel like a fraud when you're doing something you've never done before. But the only way for it to become something you've done and then become something you're good at is to do it. So it's this feedback loop. With my training, I talk about 7 different levels of energy. And each of them can show up as a character in your life, either someone you know, someone you create, literally a piece in a play that you write. And so for a lot of people, it can be a fun exercise to play a character and to show up as that particular lady of the night. I don't know, that was probably a weird example, but that person is going to have a certain set of characteristics. She might show up in a certain outfit. She might even have a certain way of talking. She might make jokes that you would be uncomfortable making. And so to take on that persona just as a game can be a really great way to feel, to actually, it's not to change the way that you feel about things, but it's to reduce the fear you have around being something you're not, because you're actively pretending rather than hoping no one notices, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's what I do in my shamanic training. It's what we do. It makes perfect sense to me because of my make-believe world and believing in the unknown. But to me, it's like putting on a mask. They're not judging me, they're judging my mask. It's like Halloween. We're putting on a costume and playing the role, only we're making Halloween our reality every day and being able to actually embody that energy, that persona, and own our wisdom, own our power, own our strength. And so basically what I'm hearing is you're saying, do make believe until you really own that power, own that wisdom, and feel comfortable and realize that no one's actually judging you or judging what's going on, since everything that is being perceived and received and interpreted is a reflection of oneself anyway. So go out and shine light.
That is the key, because at the end of the day, they are going to judge. But to your point, it's a reflection of them. What they're doing is applying their values or their perception onto you, and that's only for them to interpret. And I will say, having worked with you in your shamanic services, you've absolutely taken it 8 steps further. It's no longer an act or a game. You do embody that role, and that role is such a powerful conduit for the person who is truly experiencing what you offer. And I think you brought up the most important point, which is when you first start anything, it might feel like a role that you're playing. But at some point, you truly step into that character, which then allows everyone to have their experience. You're no longer trying to control it or own it. And that's one of the things that people who experience an acute level of imposter syndrome relate to, is they spend so much time trying to control, and they're so conscious of what's happening around them, they actually lose the ability to experience in the moment, and it's exhausting. So that's one of the key, because the catch-22 with imposter syndrome is oftentimes people who truly experience it don't believe they have imposter syndrome. Other people have imposter syndrome, but they're truly the fraud. And I think a key indicator is that, are you able to be in the moment? Are you able to be present? And every single one of us can say, well, no, sometimes that's really hard. And so, because every single one of us experience this phenomenon.
Well, and it's interesting when you talk about that too, because you talk about even the speaker on stage experiencing it. And thank you for the kind words about my services, because it's interesting. In the beginning, I felt like an imposter, and I really embodied that. And now it's so different now. And I don't know, tell me if this is something you've experienced with yourself or other clients. Now I've gotten to a point that I know that I'm not doing it. I'm facilitating an experience, but I have zero control over it. It's 100% for the person I'm facilitating it for. So if I'm not somewhat nervous, then my ego's in charge and I'm not showing up for them. And so when I go to do shamanic services or energy services, if I'm ever not scared, is this going to work? Or I'm ever not feeling that like, oh my gosh, I hope this works, then I'll know that that's when I need to stop working, because it's no longer me surrendering and being there for the client, but I'm there then for my own approval. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. And I think it's the true litmus test for a healer, for a coach, for a trainer, for a teacher. We understand it is not our results. It is not our work. And and I think what happens, the flip side of that, is that we work with people we truly believe in. We work with people that we know are so capable of stepping into and creating the results that they seek. And we simply allow that.
Which brings up another point. When I'm working with someone, I only see them happy, healthy, whole, complete, 100% in God's light, which is exactly what you're saying. So no matter what modality of coaching or service we're doing, at some level, we're all exactly the same if we choose to see each other in the highest light and the highest potential. And you just hold that space and bring it out of people.
Well, and it's in order to experience any growth, you have to understand and accept where you are in this moment.
Yeah.
And as you know, we've talked about this so many times. Stress is literally the gap between how things should be and how things are. So an incredibly powerful form of healing, and this is, with energy or attitude or perspective. But what if everything really is exactly the way it should be? What if we are all exactly where we're meant to be on this path? And it took everything up until now to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is limitless in its potential moving forward.
Yeah. I'm with you. It's beautiful. You put it beautifully.
Thank
I
you.
do believe that we are exactly where we're supposed to be. And every hardship was our greatest gift, because tell me where you stand on this. And I think we've talked about this. I don't believe in forgiveness because I don't believe in blame. I just believe in experiences. And without blame, there's no need to forgive. It's just an experience to learn and grow.
Okay. So my take on that is there are no mistakes. Everyone is truly doing their best in any moment, and their best is to fulfill their needs. So there's to look at it from a variety of perspectives. If you feel incredibly fearful or you're experiencing a lot of pain in a moment, and it might be easy is not the right word, but that might be very much due to external circumstance or influence. There's always a choice, and you have to ask yourself, what am I trying to fulfill here? And typically in those spaces, we're seeking protection, we're seeking safety, we're seeking help. We might even be seeking control or to regain some sense of power. And so what do we do in order to get those things? If in terms of forgiveness, if you think of it that whomever or whatever needs to be forgiven was simply trying to fill its own needs, and there was simply a value conflict, how could you fulfill your own needs first? And how can you prioritize you? I think it's for those of us who identify as very compassionate givers and problem solvers and helpers, we often find ourselves overextending because it's actually a very selfish act. We think selfish is a 4-letter word, but when we take a deep, hard look, we realize that we're serving because it makes us feel good. But if our solution doesn't land, if we don't get the results for our clients or for our customers, we take it personally and we drop into that poor me. I'm a failure. It's all my fault. Or it's their fault, their failures, they're ruining my reputation or whatever it might be. So if we can get to a place where we're just simply serving actually for ourselves and to feel good, we're not attached to the outcome. That's, I think, a really interesting place to explore forgiveness. And I must say, I would agree in the sense that there isn't a need to forgive because there should be no reason to blame. And if, not many people wake up in the morning and think, well, I'm really going to fuck Willow over today. I might go, you know what? Willow's not going to like this, but I really need this in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I know if I actually said that to you, you would say, well, I understand. Do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know that all I'm doing is actually taking care of me, and that's all I can ever do.
I love it.
So yeah, that would probably be my perspective on forgiveness.
There's two other things that I really want to make sure we hit. One,
Uh-huh.
I love how you also say, and we're going to go back to your website a second, how you say you don't help people find their passion, you help people make a business out of it. I'm not using your words correctly because I didn't write that one down, but I think you know where you're going with this, that people, you stop searching outside of yourself for a passion, because your passion is everywhere. And that's something that's really important that you put out there. Would you like to expand on that to let people know that are searching for their purpose or searching for their passion?
Oh,
like that's what I'm going with this.
Absolutely. So, and I think ultimately, if my greatest service to people would be to help them love their lives as is. And really, it's almost to that same point of forgiveness. If we're all exactly where we need to be, if it took everything to get here, what if this is the perfect place? And truly, that would be the easiest, right? If we could just simply blink 3 times and see the world in Technicolor. And so for anyone who has been brave enough and stubborn enough and visionary to the point where they've created a business and it is in the works, it's happening, it is my honor to help them turn that back into that dream, because it really can get there again. And, we've layered what we thought we should do or what we thought they think we should do onto ourselves and our business. And we might be trying to make a lot of other people happy. But we are not seeking purpose. We are living our purpose. And that sounds like pretty hippie, spiritual woo-woo. But if you get to a place where you realize that you're suffering, that you are so uncomfortable, you're avoiding your life, there are probably just a few bad habits or different interpretations available. Actually, let me rephrase that. There's some bad habits that you're engaging almost automatically. And then there's some thought processes that you're indulging, again, automatically. And by exploring some of those and just reprogramming, you can probably find that passion in every moment. And it doesn't take $1 million or 1 million clients or $1 million house or $1 million car. You have everything you need right now. And one of my favorite quotes that I've been vibing on recently is, you have enough, and enough is a feast.
I like that. Have enough, and enough is a feast. I really like that.
Yeah, it hit me kind of hard because it's, especially for the entrepreneurial mindset and for the creative, there truly are no limits. We always want more. I was working with a client 2 hours ago who set the biggest income target he's ever imagined for himself 2 months ago to hit by the end of the year. And it might not have even been 2 months ago. And he called me and said, well, I hit it. So obviously that wasn't the right target, and I need a bigger target. I said, okay.
That's awesome.
So again, here's the thing about targets. They give us really great information. It's not about hitting them or missing them. It's just about what we learn in that process. You are correct. A new target will give us more information. However, we need to celebrate this win, you've already normalized it. This level of income is suddenly just like what you earn all of a sudden, which 2 months ago, you were embarrassed to even say this number out loud. So one moment, bravo. And now let's figure out how we can double that and reach it. So that's just an example of how easy it is to misconstrue the goal as the metric for our success, when really just thinking about a goal is our success.
Well, and you just hit another amazing point. Celebrate the wins. Celebrate
yeah.
successes. Celebrate the, people hit something like you said, and it's like, oh my gosh, it goes back to what you were just saying about the imposter syndrome or about the fear or everything else. They start second guessing themselves rather than celebrating themselves, celebrating how amazing they are.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge.
And it's actually crucial to our development and our growth. If you look at everything from goal setting theory to transcendental meditation, they will all talk about the little wins, and it's a step-by-step path. And if you are not acknowledging the step that you've just taken, you're not going to take the next best step forward. You might keep moving forward, but who knows what direction you're going in. So it's a crucial is even underestimating how important it is to just take a moment and say, well done. Doing this interview, like, might seem easy to the viewer, but it's an amazing step forward for you and for your business and for your connection and for the community that you're building. It's huge. And sure, it's done. So wow, it's like, okay, well, who else can I interview? Where is this going to go? What's the marketing plan for it? Blah, blah, blah. But in this moment, which is a beautiful moment, and thank you for creating it.
Right now,
it's a huge win.
And our friendship and all of this amazement.
Yeah.
And yeah, this hour is all about celebrating how awesome you are and what you do for women, because there are so many women, like I said, when we're raised, it's the competition, choose me, go out and be the chosen one. And it's not about being chosen. It's about choosing and having each other's back and seeing each other and celebrating each other. To me, that's.
Can I flip this interview on you, Willow? Because that brings up a really interesting point that I'd like to explore with you.
Okay.
So you've just written an amazing book, your second book, actually. And I think that this relationship, this community building, this connection, and especially this fulfilling your needs aspect is interwoven throughout this book. So during the process of writing, what did you learn about forgiveness and connection and your relationship with other people and other women? It's a big question.
Okay, so what did I learn about, what is the first thing you asked? Because you said other women, and about myself and about connection.
And forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Well, that's where I've really come to the conclusion that there is no point in forgiveness. That's kind of where I went with that, because without each of these experiences, I wouldn't be who I am. Like, I needed to learn that lesson. And like you said, everyone is doing the best they can with the information, the tools, the technology, whatever they have. I don't believe any one person goes to hurt another person. An abusive parent doesn't set out to abuse or hurt their child. It's the only thing they know. They're repeating learned behavior. Everything that we do is learned behavior. So the biggest thing I learned, and why it's called rewriting your reality, is rewrite it. Unlearn your behavior. You have to get completely outside of your orbit, outside of everything you know, to see different models. And so what I learned was, by getting outside of my comfort zone, outside of my community, I had all these new people. Like, I met you in Texas, which you gave me a new model of how to coach small businesses. You model how to ask better questions. And I wouldn't know that if I didn't get outside of my orbit, outside of my comfort zone. I met so many women that at first the small mind, I don't want the narrow-minded perspective that I had when I left. For those of you watching who don't know me at all, I spent about 6 months living out of my truck and drove from Florida to Canada and back, and just basically surrendered and said, how can I be of service? Where can I be of service? And where can it be mutually beneficial? Show me how I can experience more love, more fun, more community than my mind can comprehend in this moment, and take me to places, people, and connections that I don't even know how to ask for. And the journey was amazing. And so it's just about I had to be open to what might not have made sense and just follow my internal compass. And when things didn't look right, but they felt right, I had to connect to that feeling because I didn't know what it looked like. You don't know what you don't know until you know. So the connections I made were with people. I think my favorite connection through all of that was with an 89-year-old man that was born and raised in Tupper Lake and gave me the history, and we mountains. Like, how would I have known to be in the Adirondack Mountains in Tupper Lake and hike with a native that just taught me everything? Like, so the connections, if you're open to them, come in the most unlikely, where you wouldn't even think of, because when you're just open to receive without judgment, the people you meet are fascinating. And then I met this woman, Liz. You spell it Lis, but it's pronounced Liz. Her name is Elizabeth. And she just emanated this beautiful light and this beauty and this community, and just shared her love. And she just really taught me about what it means to hold space without judgment. And then I met you, and I met the people in Texas, and just people I couldn't have asked for. And it really allowed me to see the people I used to connect to and see their pain. Like, it allowed me to see people without judgment and see their pain, see their fear, see their resistance, and just say, wow, this is not about me. This person is really trapped in a story right now.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for asking that. Sorry, I kind of went on a rampage there.
No, well, I mean, it was like an 18-part question. So you managed to touch on all of it, which is impressive. And I just think so super relevant to anybody watching, because writing a book is obviously a very cathartic experience, but it's easy to say, forgiveness is, it's not a thing. But when you feel like someone's really gone out of their way to purposefully hurt you, it can hang on for a minute, that pain. And, that it's just incredible when someone can literally go back through their entire life and go, you know what, I don't need that story. And that story actually didn't serve anybody, especially myself. And the reality is if I'm judging from my value set and from my perspective. And that's a very one-sided story.
It is.
And you're the one that suffers as a result of it.
Right, because no one purposely does hurt you. Like, I look at some women that really did some horrible things and had the ability to clear my name, and she didn't. And even that do it to me. She did it out of fear. When people feel like they're powerless, they will do anything to hold on or try to gain power. And
exactly, because they're just trying to fulfill their needs.
Right. So, yeah. And if that means hurting someone, they will do it because it's a way to feel alive and powerful. And all you can do is love those people, because it's not personal, and they're already, if someone is acting in that manner, they already are so trapped in their own prison and have so much self-hatred and fear. Nothing you can do can change that, other than show them love. When they're showing you hate, as hard as it is, you just have to show them love, because it's not personal.
Yeah.
And it takes a big person to do that. And I think that's why so many women compete, because they don't feel worthy, they don't feel trust, they don't feel worthy. They're competing for attention, affection, self-worth, something, because a person who loves themselves doesn't feel the need to compete.
Well, and that is a completely different energy level. And that's the challenge, is that to be able to show someone love, to be able to step into that place of compassion takes a certain level of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're feeling extremely fearful or in pain or threatened, you know, if someone is seeking power and the way to counteract that is to seek to take your power back, it's going to result in conflict. So exiting the situation is another option, albeit not very productive. It's literally the opposite of productive, but it will get you a different result than meeting that conflict with more conflict. I think to take a bigger step back is we're taught that there's only one winner. And that's where this sense of competition comes from. Because second, what do people say? There's no second, there's like winning and losing. And, you know, a way to challenge that power struggle is to allow for multiple winners. How can we all win? How can we co-create a win-win-win-win-win? And to your point, when someone is in that space, they can't go there. That's just not a perspective or an attitude that they're even able to engage. And you're absolutely right. The fastest way to shift is with self-compassion and love, but you can't do that for someone else.
No.
They have to get there themselves, which is why, sometimes like turning your back on someone can actually be an incredibly powerful action. Because if you can't help them help themselves, the only one you can't help is yourself. And sometimes that just means walking away, and that can feel cruel. It can feel like you're lacking compassion, but it's actually a different level of energy that you're engaging, rather than trying to show them or force them or meet them where they're at with anger, force. I think I said that already, but yeah, it's really tricky when you're experiencing that much fear or pain to be confronted with somebody else who's right there with you.
Well, and that's why that's what happens a lot with the law of attraction and the energy. Exactly what you're saying. When two people that are hurting, it's like children fighting each other, and it's got nothing to do with the other person. They're in this internal battle and hitting each other's triggers and triggering it. It's amazing when you say it takes the bigger person to just walk away, because in my mind and what I've experienced with clients and with other people, if I walk away saying I love you, and when you're ready, I'm here, then what we're actually doing is creating a space for them to step into by saying the door is open, but only when you're ready. And then distancing, because I'd had to do that a lot. And just, as for those of you that also don't know, if you're watching this, you probably know my past is addiction. But I had to do that when I got sober and when I overcame my addiction in those toxic relationships. I love you. We had a best friend, and I just had to look at her and say, I love you like a sister. My door is open, but not until you're ready to do the work. Like, I love you, but I'm not going to take this abuse anymore because I love myself now. And I love you. And I hugged her and I said, I love you. And at some point, if you're ready, I'm